Hello. In episode 5, it was shown, beyond reasonable doubt, that the modern form of troy weight appeared within Islam around 698 AD. In this episode, I will explain how it came to be adopted in England in 793 AD. Firstly, we should complete the Persian story. It is clear that lots of old Sassanid silver drams were restruck with great accuracy to the new dirham standard after 698 AD. However, hoards show that lots of old Sassanid silver drams, often worn and clipped, still circulated. Most probably they were involved in tax avoidance, a black market. This situation continued until 850 AD. By then the Abbasid caliphs were in trouble and started to abandon fixed-weight coinage. Most often, payment was thereafter made by weight of coin. Coins would become random lumps of silver, only a bullion system of weight being needed and retained. Since the medieval English sterling penny of 30 troy wheat grains is very clearly a half of the Islamic 60-grain dirham, the transfer of the system has to be in the period 698 to 850 AD. There is only one event that fits, the coin reform of 793, so let's look into what happened then. In 789, Charlemagne issued a general command. Item 74 on his agenda was that all, both in the diocese and in the monasteries, are to have equal and correct measures and just and equal weights, whether for giving or for receiving, in accordance with the commandments which we find in the Lord's law. He was referring to the Bible, Leviticus, verse 19.35, which states, "Do not use dishonest standards when measuring length, weight, or quantity. Use honest scales and honest weights. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt." Clearly, this raised a problem for Charles. What exactly was the honest weight standard of Moses, as commanded in Leviticus? As it happens, Charlemagne was in a kind of alliance with the Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid at that time. They shared a common enemy, the Umayyad dynasty ruling Spain. Since Harun was on the spot, so to speak, as ruler of Egypt and the Holy Land, and also commanded the leading research centre of the Western world, his House of Wisdom, it was very natural for Charles to ask there for advice. We have just scanty knowledge of what happened next, taken from a single letter written by the York scholar Alcuin to an Irish prelate, Colcu, early in 790. Alcuin wrote, "I do not know what is to become of us, since the devil has been kindling his fire, so that some dispute had recently arisen between King Charles and King Offa, with the result that sea crossings have been forbidden by both parties and are coming to an end. There are those who say that we ought to be sent to those regions in the interests of peace. I have sent 50 shekels for the pious brothers as a pious gift from King Charles." My reading of this text is that Charles had attempted to enroll Offa in a universal European coinage scheme, a kind of early medieval euro. Offa had refused to sign up, which had led to a hard Brexit. Those who try to blame all this on a failed marriage arrangement are just being naive. Much more likely it was about who gets to keep the profit from the control of the money system. Alcuin suppressed the reason for the dispute, but he was funneling cash from Charles to the Irish, which surely indicates where he stood on this medieval Euro and Brexit matter. He thought the devil was backing the Brexiteers, and he wanted a piece of the action in opposing them. In 793, both parties went their separate ways. Mercia did not join Charlemagne's currency union. In effect, they seem to have made two different guesses as to what standard Moses had used. In hindsight, we can see Offa made a better guess. Let us run through the details. Charlemagne first. The target weight for Charles' 793 new penny was 1.7 grams. There were 240 of those pennies in his money pound. Notice too that 1.7 grams divided by 32 gives us 0.0531 grams. That remained the size of the French or Paris grain right down to the metric system introduced in 1795. In 1965, Philip Grierson solved the puzzle of what Charles had done. It is simple. 1.7 grams is half the weight of the Roman imperial denarius, and there are 8 denarii in a Roman ounce. So there are 16 Carolinginian pennies in a Roman ounce. 240 divided by 16 is 15. Charles had adopted a coining pound of 15 Roman ounces. Remember what Abd al-Malik did. He took a seigniorage of 1/16. That is what Charles did too. He adopted a bullion pound of 16 Roman ounces, that is to say an Attic minor, and made 256 pennies. He kept 16, so reducing it to 15 ounces for his money pound, thus 240 pennies. Surviving Carolinginian weights from Italy in Roman ounces support that bullion pound. There is a second reason to believe that Charles got advice from Islam. If he had taken his standard from ancient Roman gold coins, he would have got an ounce of 6 solidi, which would be about 6 times 4.45 grams, thus about 26.7 grams. Dividing 26.7 by 16 gives us short weight, 1.67 grams. The 1.7 gram standard that we see is the exact one got from the correct fix, the one made by Arabs in 697. Thus at root, Charles seems to have fixed the standard of Moses incorrectly via Rome at the Attic minor. As far as we can tell today, that came into being around 600 BC. So he was out of whack with history as we know it. Charles took his standard from the Islamic dinar using the Islamic carat. However, rather than following the Arabs and splitting it into 3 Islamic gold grains, he split it into 4 Paris grains. Apparently he wanted a penny with 32 grains in it. That grain stayed at the heart of French measurement right down to 1795. Turning to Offa now, his story is very simple. In 793, Offa made his penny from half a dirham. His system was that of Abd al-Malik. The Arab system derives in turn from the minor of Darius, and before that from the Sumerian minor of about 500 grams. That minor was created before 2000 BC. Offa's claim to follow Moses was the better shot at the truth. There are a couple of quibbles that I need to address in connection with this account of Offa's doings. The first is the target weight of his surviving post-793 pennies seems to be about 1.42 grams, lower than the 1.46 grams one would wish for. Part of the problem is that there are not many of these pennies and fewer in good condition. Further, though, it should be admitted that English silver pennies hardly ever matched the accuracy achieved by Islam. When Cologne in Germany took to copying the English sterling standard, they too often made a better fist of the accuracy matter. Secondly, there was a huge break in English minting policy from 973 to 1083, apparently connected to paying the Danegeld. Those late Anglo-Saxons created a very complicated money tax. It was not until the Normans, around the time of Henry II, that England really got its act together and put out pennies at near full weight. However, we know from official records what the full weight of the sterling penny was, and it was 30 grains, measured in medieval wheat grains. Those go, by definition, 4-3 against the later Troy barley grains, those still in use today. Both Arab and English systems use the same 2 grains. England only preferred the Troy barley grain of 0.0648 grams when it went on to a gold standard around 1350. There is only one satisfactory way to explain how England got Troy weight. It is the one given here. Offa adopted Troy from Harun al-Rashid in 793 AD. I will leave some numbers on the screen for you to ponder. Thanks for watching.